So Justin was originally signed up to speak at Farmhouse Conf 3 1 year ago. And about 1 year ago and 1 day ago, a ginormous superstorm called Sandy crushed into New York. And if he could have gotten to the airport, his flights were still going, but there was no gas and no cars, and no one would take any amount of money to take any amount of gas into any amount of cars. Whatever. So we missed out on Justin at Disruption. Instead, we got him for Future, and he's been spelling his name without vowels way before it was cool. JSTN.
Thank you, Shane. And thank you for all this. This is amazing. I'm so happy to be back here for, I guess it's the last one, right? Is that still it? All right. All good things must come to an end. I had another travel adventure on my way here this time. I had another adventure. It was kind of an auspicious time to be flying into LAX yesterday. So I flew here from New York, and as I was leaving my apartment, I got this news alert on my phone, and it said there's been this shooting at LAX, and I was like, oh no, how is this horribly violent thing going to mildly inconvenience me? And I didn't know it was going to happen. I checked my flight and it said it's on time, everything's fine. And I went to the airport, and sure enough, there was some confusion about what to do. They're like, they might shut the airport down. It's not really clear. And they took about an hour and a half to decide. I was supposed to fly at around 4. And eventually what they did was they diverted, I think, every JetBlue flight to Long Beach instead, which is a far superior airport, I must say. They have the cutest control tower of any airport, I think, in the world. I don't know if you've ever flown there, but do yourself a favor sometime. It's adorable. It looks like a Brio toy. Anyway. So it turned out to be a much better time to fly out a little bit later. And I've never done this, but we actually were taking off right as the sun was setting. And so this is an incredible time to be flying westward because you wind up chasing the sunset as you go west. And it's incredibly beautiful to be up in the air that high and to see it and to just have it fade out so slowly. It's not something you're used to. The sunset usually is gone in a few minutes, and that's it. And I was like, wow, this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have had this experience. And I kind of dozed off and woke up about the time we were landing at Long Beach. And, we're kind of flying over, I guess, what must be Palm Springs, east of LA. And I just love I love LA. I think LA is my favorite city after New York. New York is number one. Sorry, guys. But I love LA. And one of the things I love about it is flying into it. It just is it just expands forever. New York is it's so concentrated in one spot. It's Manhattan is such the obvious center of it. And you can see it from a long ways off, and there's tall buildings, and it's there. And one of my favorite things about New York is the skyline. And it's so beautiful and just energetic. It's just so bright. The whole thing is lit up, and it's just glowing very strongly. And LA isn't like that. LA is it's definitely got an electric look to it from the air, but it's it twinkles and shines, and it's long and flat. It's almost like a field of, I don't know, particles just flowing out into every direction. I think that's so amazing. And as we got lower and lower, I was like, what is causing this twinkling? I think it's really interesting. It's maybe it's some combination of the heat and the haze and the pollution, and who knows. But one thing I noticed was as we got closer and closer, you can start to make out some of the houses and some of the windows and things. And I realized that some of this twinkling was just from people turning their lights off and on. And when you're up in the air, you can see a lot of people at once doing something totally mundane, which is clicking their lights off and on. And I was thinking, oh man, it's so weird. Nobody down there is flicking on their lights thinking that there's someone a mile up noticing them doing that. But there I was, watching all the lights go off and on. So I work at Tumblr, and what I've been thinking about in the last 6 months, when I was here before, I kind of rambled about music and vision and immortality. And really, like, what I've been thinking the most about lately has been vision. And I think it's also interesting how from the air, you can't quite tell what those lights are. There's no difference between like a street light and the light from a house and the light from whatever. And it could be firelight for all you know. And I think that there's something really interesting there. What I'm doing for Tumblr right now is thinking about GIFs, animated GIFs specifically. I don't know if you know this, Tumblr is like a very GIF-oriented community of people. Both as like just a place to find and consume GIFs, but also like as an art, I think it's being advanced in Tumblr in a really interesting way. So I've just been thinking lately about, what are the roots of GIF? Why do we like animated GIFs so much? Why are they so popular now? Like, what is it tapping into in our minds that makes them so popular? And I found out that the history of animation, and it's tied up really tightly with like the history of cinema, but it's really interesting. It's like, I think that you can make a strong point or a strong case for the fact that people have been thinking about like how vision works and about how animation specifically might work since there has been art. I don't know, how many of you have seen Cave of Forgotten Dreams? That's the Werner Herzog movie about the cave art. It's wonderful. If you haven't seen it, go see it. See it in 3D. It's really cool. But one of the most like startling things about it, and it floored me when I first saw it, was he makes a case for some of these paintings being some of the first animation ever. And it's also just some of the first art ever. It's cave paintings that are 35,000 years old. They're much older than the Lascaux cave paintings, which are kind of the most famous. And what he notices is there are cave paintings that have kind of like varied drawings, like over, like almost like an onion skin, like an animation, like where you have an animator who draws the one frame and then has like a sheet and goes back and forth and kind of draws the next thing like slightly off, and then like there's one move that's like slightly more as you go through the frames. And his theory, and I love this, is that whoever painted this intended for the viewer to be in this cave lit by firelight behind them. And the effect with the firelight flickering onto these slightly different shades of black, basically, on the wall, make the different frames visible, like depending on how the light's hitting it. And the effect is like a very kind of crude animation. And this is incredible to me. This is like, it's amazing that even as early as cave painting, it's like immediately people were already trying to like take it another step further. So I guess I've only got a minute, but like, fast forward through time, I think it's really interesting to see how we've kind of gone from like cave paintings, I guess, basically, through to like the zoetrope, which is like one of the very first examples of I guess, modern animation technology. And I think you can make a strong case that the end of that thread, at least so far, is animated GIFs. It's like there's not much different between those cave paintings and GIFs. And it's funny, like even researching this on the internet, like somebody had made, these little short animations into GIFs. That's how I was experiencing them online. It's like incredible how easily they translate from literally a medium as ancient as a cave wall to Tumblr. So I'll wrap it up, but I've been thinking a lot about vision. I think the future of vision is really interesting, especially now. Google Glass, I think, is about to start marketing to us via Barge. Google Glass. There's a lot of interesting things. Virtual reality is starting to come back. There's a thing called Oculus Rift. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's very cool. It's like a very low-cost VR goggles that are like very good. So the future's interesting. It's like, I don't think animated GIF is the end, but we are giving more and more control of our vision over to devices and things without totally understanding how it works. We don't totally know how it works. There's lots of theories, but it's an interesting unknown. Anyway, thank you.